The alien slave market smelled like metal, sweat, and sadness. People shouted prices, waved credit chips, and laughed at the broken lives in cages. The human soldier Marcus walked slowly through the market, his sharp eyes scanning the line of captives. He wasn't looking for a slave. He didn't even want to be here. But something pulled him forward like fate had whispered his name. Then he saw her dot in the far corner. In the shadows was the biggest living creature he had ever seen. She sat with her back against the wall. Her arms chained, her eyes down. Her skin was a deep violet, covered in scars. Her body was massive, taller than any alien he had seen. Even sitting, she looked strong enough to lift a starship. A group of traders stood nearby, laughing. "No one wants that thing," one of them said. "She's too big to breed, useless." "She nearly broke the cage," another added. "She doesn't even speak. Just sits there like a stone." Marcus didn't laugh. He stepped closer. The giant alien woman didn't look at him. Her eyes stayed on the dirt floor. Her arms, thick with muscle, were bruised from rough chains. She looked more like a weapon than a woman, but something about her felt wrong. Not her body, her silence. She wasn't a beast. She was hiding. "Who is she?" Marcus asked the seller. The alien trader smirked. "Oh, that one? Huh, a joke, really. Thrown out by her people. Too big to fit in their buildings, too strong for their males, and too infertile to give children. That's what they say. We picked her up from the border. No one wants her." Marcus looked again. Not once did she glance at him. Not even when he knelt down beside the cage. "What's your name?" he asked softly. Her lips parted slightly. Her voice was a whisper, like wind in a tunnel. "Zura. That's a strong name," Marcus said. "Do you understand me?" Zura gave the smallest nod. "Do you want to leave this place?" he asked. She raised her head slowly. Her eyes were golden and tired. She looked at Marcus for the first time. "Why would you want me?" she said. "I'm not breeding material. I'm too big, too broken." Her words hit harder than any weapon. Marcus felt something deep inside twist. This wasn't a monster. This was a woman who had been thrown away like trash. He stood up. "I'll take her." The trader blinked. "You sure? No returns?" "I'm sure." The chains were removed. Zura stood and gasps filled the market. She towered over Marcus, over everyone. 8 feet tall, maybe more. Broad shoulders, thick legs, arms like steel beams. And yet, she moved gently, as if afraid of stepping too hard. People stared. Some laughed. Some whispered cruel things. But Marcus didn't care. He handed Zura a blanket, which barely covered her large frame, and walked her toward his small transport ship. She didn't speak the whole trip. When they reached Marcus's small home on the edge of a quiet colony, Zura stood outside the door. "Unsure. You can come in," Marcus said. Zura shook her head. "I'll stay outside. I don't want to break anything," Marcus sighed. "You won't, please." She ducked under the doorframe and stepped inside, careful and slow. The house was small, but warm. A fire glowed in the corner. Marcus gave her food, real food. She hesitated before eating, then devoured it like a starved animal. Later that night, Marcus brought her a large blanket and tried to show her the guest room, but the bed was too small. "I told you," Zura said. "I don't fit. I don't belong anywhere." Marcus looked up at her and smiled. "Then we'll build something that fits you." Zura stared at him for a long time. Her hands were shaking. No one had ever said something like that to her. "Why are you being kind to me?" she asked. "I have nothing to offer. I can't give you children. I can't even—" Marcus stepped closer and placed his hand gently on her giant arm. "You're not a thing to be bought for breeding. You're a person. And no one deserves to be thrown away." Tears formed in her golden eyes. She turned away, ashamed. "I'm tired," she whispered. "You can sleep here," he said. That night, Zura curled up on the floor near the fire, wrapped in the blanket. Marcus watched her breathe, slow and deep. She looked peaceful, like a storm that had finally passed, but inside her heart, a new storm was beginning. Zura woke with a sharp breath. The fire was still glowing, but the room was dark and quiet. She lay on the floor, her massive body curled tight like a frightened animal. For a moment, she forgot where she was. Then she smelled the food, warm bread, real food. She sat up slowly. The blanket slid off her shoulder. She blinked. This wasn't the slave cage. This wasn't the cold mud floor. She was in the human's home. Marcus. Her heart beat faster. She had spent years being touched only by chains and whips. Kindness felt like a trap. She looked around, expecting someone to shout or grab her, but instead, there was peace and something else. A soft sound from the kitchen. Zura stood and moved, carefully, making sure her steps didn't shake the walls. When she entered, Marcus looked up from the stove. "You're awake," he said, smiling. Zura nodded. "I made breakfast. I wasn't sure what you eat, so I tried something simple." Zura looked at the plate. Eggs, bread, a strange yellow fruit. "You don't have to do this," she said. Her voice was low, unsure. "You already took me in. You don't owe me food." Marcus shrugged. "I don't do this because I owe you. I do it because I want to." That confused her more than anything. He sat down at the small table and motioned for her to sit too. Zura hesitated, then slowly lowered herself to the floor beside the table. Marcus handed her the plate. Her hand shook as she took it. He noticed. "You okay?" he asked. Zura looked down. "No one's ever treated me like this. Not since I was a child." Marcus was quiet for a moment. Then, without a word, he reached over and gently touched her hand. Zura's whole body froze. In another time, she had accidentally crushed a man's ribs during a panicked hug. Since then, she never let anyone near. Now, the human's hand was on hers, small, warm, no fear in his eyes. "You're safe now," he said softly. Zura pulled her hand back, not to push him away, but to hide the tears rising in her throat. "I don't understand you," she whispered. "You don't have to. Just eat." They ate in silence, but it wasn't cold. It was full of something new. Something soft and strange. After breakfast, Zura tried to help with the chores. She chopped firewood with ease, her strong arms slicing through thick logs like they were nothing. She carried water barrels like they were feathers. Marcus watched from a distance. He didn't stop her, but when he saw her pause to touch a small flower near the fence, so gently, like it might break, he smiled. That night, he gave her clean clothes, made for her size, custom stitched from heavy cloth. She stared at the fabric like it was treasure. "These are for me?" she asked. Who else would they be for? Zura didn't know what to say. She had never owned anything, not even clothes. Her old armor was taken long ago. She tried the outfit on. It fit her wide shoulders, thick hips, and long arms. She looked in the mirror. She didn't recognize herself. "I look." She started, then stopped. Marcus stood beside her. He looked up at her reflection and said, "You look like you." Zura stared at him. "Do I scare you?" "No," he said. "You've been through hell, but you're still standing. That doesn't scare me. It impresses me." Her knees almost gave out. She sat by the fire again, this time not curled up in fear, but with her back straight. Before Marcus left the room, he paused. "I'm glad you're here, Zura." And for the first time in years, Zura said something she never thought she'd say again. "Me too." Zura sat quietly, watching her reflection in the window. The glass was fogged from the warmth inside, but her outline still showed a massive, wide-shouldered figure, dwarfing everything around her. The human's house was built for someone half her size. She didn't fit the chairs. Her knees bent awkwardly on the couch. Even the ceiling seemed to hold its breath when she stood. She whispered to herself, "I don't belong here." That was when Marcus entered the room, wiping dirt from his hands after working outside. He paused, sensing something was wrong. "You haven't touched your tea," he said gently. Zura shook her head. "The cup is too small. I can bring a bowl." She let out a weak laugh. "A bowl for tea? How ridiculous I must look to you." Marcus walked over and sat on the couch, looking up at her reflection in the glass. "You don't look ridiculous." Zura turned her eyes away. "I do. I see myself next to you, and all I see is a monster." "No," he said. "You're not a monster. You're strong. Beautiful in a way this world doesn't understand." She didn't believe him. Not yet. Later that night, the rain started. Gentle at first, then heavier. Zura moved to the porch and watched the drops fall. The roof above her creaked under her weight, but she stayed still. Marcus joined her, holding a blanket. "You'll get cold out here." She didn't move. "My people used to say rain was the sky's sadness. I used to think it was beautiful. Now, I just feel like I'm the reason it cries." Marcus placed the blanket over her shoulders. "I don't see sadness when I look at you," he said. "I see someone who's been thrown away and still stands tall." Zura's eyes filled, but she held back her tears. She had cried enough in her lifetime. "I'm too big for this world, Marcus," she said quietly. "Too big to love, too big to be held, too big to be desired. That's why they gave up on me." "I haven't," he said. She turned slowly to face him. "Why?" He didn't answer right away. Instead, he reached up and touched her cheek. Zura flinched, but he didn't pull back. His hand was small against her face. Warm, brave. "You think you're too big for love. But maybe love just wasn't big enough for you until now," Marcus said. Something inside her broke. Not in pain but in relief. She slowly knelt, bringing herself closer to his level. It was the first time. She made herself smaller, not to hide, but to be near him. "Are you afraid of me?" she asked. He looked into her golden eyes and shook his head. "Never." Zura reached out her hand. It trembled as she placed it on his chest, careful, so careful. She could crush him without trying. But right now, all she wanted was to feel his heart. It was racing. She smiled softly. "So, maybe I'm not too big for everything. You're just the right size for someone who sees the truth," Marcus whispered. Their heads leaned closer, uncertain, scared, but curious. And then, for the first time in her life, Zura kissed someone, not in fear, not in shame, but in hope. Zura had never felt this kind of fear before. Not on the battlefield. Not when she was dragged into a cage. Not even when her people left her behind. But now, as she looked at Marcus sleeping on the couch, blanket kicked off, his chest rising and falling gently, she felt it. She was afraid of losing him. Suddenly the front door burst open. Crack! The wood shattered and cold wind rushed in. Zura jumped to her feet. 3 armed strangers stormed in, humans, but dirty, wild-eyed, and desperate. Bandits. "Where's the money? The tech? Give it now, or we burn this place," one shouted. Marcus shot up, confused, half awake. Zura didn't speak. She moved fast. The first man raised a metal rod. He didn't even see her coming. Zura grabbed his arm, mid-swing, and squeezed, just enough to make him scream and drop the weapon. The second bandit pulled out a stun gun and fired. The bolt hit her shoulder, but she didn't fall. She turned her head slowly, her golden eyes glowing with something terrifying. He dropped the gun. What is she?" Zura stepped between Marcus and the attackers like a wall of muscle and fury. The third man tried to run, but she moved like thunder. One leap, one hand, and he was pinned against the wall. "I will not let you hurt him," she said in a low, deadly voice. Her grip loosened just enough to let him breathe. "Get out." All 3 ran for their lives, one limping, one crying. and one covered in fear. Silence returned. Marcus stood slowly. He stared at her, her chest rising, her body shaking with leftover adrenaline. She turned to him, scared. "Did I scare you?" "No," he said, voice steady. "You protected me." She sat down suddenly, like her legs gave out. Her hands trembled. "I didn't think. I just moved. I was afraid." "Of what?" he asked. Zura looked at him with eyes full of something deeper than fear. "Afraid of losing the only person who ever made me feel like I matter." Marcus walked to her side. Without a word, he took her hand, her huge, rough hand, and held it with both of his. "You matter to me. You always will." She tried to pull away. "I could have hurt you." "But you didn't," he whispered. Zura lowered her head. "I don't know how to live like this. Being strong, but soft inside. It's like I'm split in two." He smiled gently. "You don't have to choose. You can be both." And then he wrapped his arms around her as best he could. It wasn't a tight hug. It wasn't strong. But it was real. And for Zura, it was everything. Zura had never been afraid of silence until now. She stood by the small mirror, wearing the outfit Marcus had stitched for her, dark cloth stretched tight across her strong frame, fitting every curve. Not hiding her body, not making her smaller, for once. It showed exactly who she was, and that terrified her. She turned and saw Marcus watching her from the doorway. He wasn't staring in fear. He wasn't laughing. He wasn't shocked. He looked breathless. Zura crossed her arms over her chest. "I know," she said softly. "I'm too much." Marcus stepped closer. "Too much for who?" She didn't answer. Instead, she looked down at her hands. "I've never let anyone close to me. Not like this. Never let anyone see me as a woman." Marcus came forward, standing right in front of her. His voice was low, calm, but full of something deep. "I see you." Zura swallowed hard. "Do you want me?" The question fell heavy in the room. Marcus didn't hesitate. "Yes." Her eyes widened. "Even like this?" He placed his hand gently on her waist, just above her wide hip. "Especially like this." They sat by the fire, close, quiet. Zura had taken off her boots. Her feet were twice the size of his. Her legs, thick and scarred, rested beside his. She watched him closely. "I don't know how to do this," she said. He smiled. "Then we'll learn together." She reached out and touched his face with trembling fingers. She had crushed steel before, split armor, broken bones, but this was the most delicate thing she'd ever done. "You're not afraid?" she whispered again. "No," he replied. "I'm honored." Her heart thud. She leaned in slowly, so slow, afraid to move too fast, afraid she might ruin the moment. But Marcus didn't pull away. Their lips met, soft and unsure. Zura pulled back quickly, afraid she'd hurt him. "Did I?" He pulled her back in, gently. "You didn't break me." She smiled. Yet, they laughed softly together. The fire crackled. The rain tapped against the window. Zura rested her forehead against his. "I never thought I'd be touched. And not be treated like a beast." "You're not a beast," he said. "You're a miracle." Later, wrapped in the quiet warmth of night, Zura rested beside him on the thick rug near the fire. "I never thought anyone would see me like this," she whispered. Marcus looked into her eyes. "Then let me be the first, and never the last." For the first time in her life, Zura felt something deeper than desire. She felt safe, wanted, real. And that feeling stayed with her long after the fire burned low. Zura woke up before sunrise. The room was quiet, filled with the soft glow of early morning. Marcus was still asleep beside the fire, his chest rising and falling in a peaceful rhythm. But she felt different. Her hand moved slowly to her stomach. It wasn't pain. It wasn't hunger. It was warmth, something soft, something alive. Her eyes widened. No, it couldn't be. She sat up carefully. Her body felt heavy, but not weak. Just changed. She stood and walked to the mirror. She looked. The same, still tall, still wide, still thick with muscle, but her body felt like it was humming from the inside. Like something small had lit a candle deep. Within her, her heart beat faster. No, her people told her it wasn't possible. You're too big. You can't carry life. You're just a body, not a mother. Those words had haunted her for years, but now, this feeling. Zura placed both hands on her stomach, her fingers trembling. Could it be? Marcus stirred and found her standing at the window, bathed in soft golden light. Zura? He said gently. She didn't turn around. I need to ask you something, she said, her voice strange and distant. He sat up. What is it? She slowly faced him. Her eyes were shining. Her lips parted. But the words were hard to say. If I told you, I might be carrying something impossible, would you believe me? He didn't blink. Double quotes. Yes, he said. Zura's voice cracked. They told me I was infertile, too large. My body wasn't made for life. I believed it, but now I feel something. I don't understand it, but it feels real. Marcus stood and walked to her. He didn't ask for proof. He didn't question her. He placed a hand gently over hers on her stomach. His touch was soft, steady. We'll find out together, he said. Whatever it is, I'm with you. Tears ran down her cheeks. No chains, no cages, no cold looks or mocking voices, just a human holding her with hope. I don't know what I'm feeling, she whispered, but it doesn't feel empty. Marcus smiled. Maybe it's not emptiness anymore. Maybe it's life. She buried her face in his chest. What if it's real? Then we'll raise a miracle, he whispered. The council didn't come to welcome her. They came to laugh. Zura stood at the edge of her old village, holding her child close to her chest. The wind was cold. The sky was gray, but her heart was stronger than ever. Behind her, Marcus stood tall, his hand resting gently on her back. Around them, the villagers whispered, She's back? Still huge. Why is a human with her? But when they saw what she carried, their voices stopped. The baby in her arms had her golden eyes and Marcus's warm smile. The elders stepped forward. Their faces were hard like stone. We told you, Zura, one said. Your body is too large, too unnatural. You would never carry life. Zura looked them in the eye. She wasn't shaking. She wasn't afraid. You were wrong. She slowly unwrapped the blanket, revealing the child's face. A soft gasp spread through the crowd. The child cooed and reached up with tiny fingers, alien and human, together in one miracle. A new voice broke the silence. One of the younger alien girls stepped forward. She did it, she whispered. She proved them all wrong. Zura raised her chin. You called me worthless, a mistake, a thing. She looked down at the baby and smiled. But this child proves I was never broken. Just waiting for the right love. Marcus stepped forward now, speaking clearly. Her strength wasn't the problem. Your small minds were. One of the council members tried to speak, but the people weren't listening to him anymore. We're looking at Zura. Not with fear, with awe. Later that night, back at their home, Zura rocked the baby slowly. Marcus sat beside her, wrapping his arm around her waist. You were amazing today, he said. Zura smiled. I didn't do it to prove anything. Then why? I did it because I wanted to believe I could be more than what they said I was. She looked down at her child, so small, so perfect. I never thought I could love something this much. Marcus kissed her cheek. I knew from the start you were never too big. You were just meant for something bigger. She laughed softly. Like what? Hope, he said. You carried hope. And so the outcast giant, one they said was too big, too broken, too barren, became a mother, not just of a child, but of a new beginning.